Hello, I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van Zyl, editor of ESI Africa, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio. Today I have with me Knox Msebenzi, who is the Managing Director of the Nuclear Industry Association of South Africa. Welcome, Knox. We're going to be obviously talking about nuclear in the South African market. So my first question is really looking at the global energy mix. How much is nuclear composing that market?
We're talking about an increasing market, despite some literature which talks about there's a decline. There was obviously a lot of reevaluation that the industry went through after Fukushima in terms of making sure that we've got all our safety all together. But it's a growing market. We're looking projections are showing that it's going to go to 20-25% as we go on, because that's the most sustainable form of energy which is environmentally friendly. So there is no going back in it. It's actually certain to be on the increase.
Right. I think that it's in terms of COP21 and the Paris Agreement, that's when nuclear started to be spoken about in a more positive light since COP21 took place.
Yes, absolutely.
So the question is then, how cost effective is nuclear energy?
Well, what many people seem to make or are unable to make the distinction between the installation costs. Admittedly, to build a nuclear power plant costs quite a bit of money, but they last 60 plus years. So when you consider the period of time that they are in installation plus the amount of energy that they can produce, they are actually very cheap. In fact, in some instances compares very favorably with hydro, sometimes even cheaper than hydro depending on the situation. So yes, the cost of nuclear is very competitive. And this is on authority from independent studies that have been done. This is not just a figure that comes from the industry. Right now, as we speak, Quebec is the cheapest source of energy for Eskom. So yes, it is cost effective.
All right, so the short answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the other concern that the general public has is looking at where a nuclear plant is going to be built. So how is a site evaluated?
Usually the policy makers put into consideration all the other economic factors. Remember, building a nuclear power plant is not just about electrons. It's not just about producing electricity. It is about economic development. It's about creating employment, all sorts of things. So those factors come into the picture with the policy makers. But in terms of the technical aspects, one of the issues, obviously, to look at is an area that is geologically stable, an area that is not likely or is not prone to any earthquakes and whatever. So those are some of the issues to think about. And of course, nuclear power plant requires quite a considerable amount of cooling, the conventional nuclear power plant. So it's typically located by the coast for cooling purposes. But the smaller modular reactors that are coming to the market could be built anyway, like what we were developing with the PBMR, that could be built anyway in the country. Doesn't require a lot of cooling. It requires basically a lot less cooling than conventional coal power plants. So yes, so those are the factors that are put into consideration.
So a lot goes into looking at a site, and it is a very detailed process that is taking place.
It absolutely, because there has to be an environmental impact assessment anyway to see that you're not disturbing the ecosystem. Because anything that we do as human beings, anything that we do is bound to affect the environment. It's about managing how the impact on the environment. That's why a detailed environmental impact assessment is done and is acceptable to government, is acceptable to the communities that are concerned, and so on. So a thorough process goes through, and we've got a nuclear regulator that makes sure that any applicant for a nuclear power plant must go through all these processes, and they're acceptable, and all the boxes are ticked.
And this thing brings me to another public concern, and that is around the storage of nuclear waste. What is it that the public doesn't know that could put them at ease?
What I think it's important to emphasize that as part of a nuclear license application, right up front, an applicant needs to explain or to have detailed plans on how to handle the waste. And so this is not something that nuclear power plant operators think about in due course at the beginning. So there are elaborate plans that have been approved by the National Nuclear Regulator on the treatment of nuclear waste at Quebec as we stand. The high-level waste is currently being stored on the plant itself. It's a national key point, and so is regarded as being safe. The low-level waste, low to intermediate level waste, we are storing it in the Northern Cape. So all those plans are in place. The technology for nuclear waste is very well advanced, and there are continuous improvements on a regular basis anyway. So nuclear waste is not a big deal. It's a waste that has been in fact, this is probably the only waste that has been thoroughly done and is accounted for. Many other forms of energy, where do we store the ash for coal? Where do we put the solar panels when they're no longer in use? Those issues are not addressed, but with nuclear, we are thorough in terms of what happens to that. And there's technologies now that is looking at reprocessing the waste, or using the waste in terms of the new generation nuclear power plants anyway. So the issue of waste is really not a big problem.
So this then brings me to the question around skills development. One of the things whenever putting forward the idea of a nuclear power plant is that there will be jobs created. But how do we ensure that our artisans and engineers are then fully skilled to work at a nuclear power plant?
We train them. There's no other way except to train them. People do not wake up one morning and find themselves skilled. You can only get a skill by training for the skill. So we've got plans to do that. We're already sending people to countries that have got nuclear programs in readiness for this. Our government, together with other governments, has signed up agreements where some of the young people are being sent to get ready. But as with anything else, before you actually start a program, it becomes very difficult to fully equip people, because if we train people on welding and the program is not there, what are they going to do? Are they going to sit and wait? So there's timing for everything. I have no doubt that we've got the capacity, we've got the institutions, academic institutions, to train, to educate people on the knowledge, but the skills is something that is going to be done practically, especially when the project is in place.
So lastly, Knox, what is your message that you have to the general public in South Africa about nuclear?
I think the message that needs to be communicated very effectively to the people of South Africa is that we desperately need baseload power. If we are going to industrialize, which we need to do to create jobs, we would need good, reliable power. I think it's on record that a number of opportunities for industrialization in this country, mining, plants, smelters, whatever, have been put on hold because ESCOM could not guarantee power because of the problems that we're going through. So the case for new capacity, especially as our coal power plants are getting old and they need to be mothballed anyway, and we are signatories to COP21, which is saying we are not going to continue to pollute the environment. For baseload, nuclear is the answer.
Thank you very much, Knox.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pomba van Zyl, editor of ESI Africa magazine. coming to you from the African Utility Week studio.